Hello, everyone. I'm Reverend Richard Miner. I'm the Graduate Engagement Officer here at One Spirit Learning Alliance, and it is my great pleasure today to have Annie O'Neill with us. She is a Reverend from the very first class, the inaugural class of One Spirit in 2003. Annie, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Richard. It's great to be here.
It is great to have you. And Annie, you have an amazing history, not only personally, but also with One Spirit. You're currently working as a dean in the Interspiritual Counseling Program, but that is one in a long list of roles that you've had here at One Spirit. So can you tell me a little bit about yourself and a little bit about how you came to One Spirit and the path that took you to being a dean?
Sure. I came to One Spirit, as you said, as part of the first class. I was one of the many that came over from New Seminary. And I was drawn to becoming an interfaith minister as my career in advertising, where I was convincing people that they needed to buy a luxury car in order to be worthwhile in this world, was starting to lose its sheen for me as my spiritual life grew. So I knew somebody who had been an interfaith minister, and I had been contemplating it for a while. And I decided to take the leap. And I did it primarily for my own personal spiritual growth. I never really anticipated that my work would be of a spiritual nature, but I feel extremely honored that it is. And yeah, as you said, I had a number of different roles at One Spirit. After graduating from the first class, I spent some time working there, doing some initial marketing work, getting the bookstore up and running, and doing a little bit of development work back then too, all on a part-time basis. And then I went off and I started my own bookstore that was oriented towards spiritual growth. That's what I'm thinking of. And then I came back as a student in 2010, became the first of the alumni coordinators, and then joined the ISC program a couple of years after completing it as a student, joined it as a dean. So yes, I've had a number of different hats at One Spirit.
Well, and I would like to say thank you for having founded the role that I am lucky enough to have today. I know that you really set the groundwork for everything that has come since then, and the entire graduate engagement program rests on the work that you started. So thank you very much. And I think I speak on behalf of the entire graduate community when I say that. We owe you a great debt of gratitude. Now, I know that now you are working as a dean in the ISC program, but you've also got a lot of other things that you're working on outside of One Spirit. Can you tell me a little bit about your training in the Interspiritual Counseling Program and how that impacted your life and how that changed or influenced the work that you're doing in the world?
Absolutely. So I think as a student, there were a couple of things that shifted for me. The first one was, especially having been an executive in the business world for a long time, I was a very directive person. And I felt like that was the way to interact with people. And I really came to realize in ISC the power of being invitational. As a matter of fact, when I had the honor of giving the charge to the graduates in 2012, I made the statement that to be directive rather than invitational is to potentially do damage to one's soul. And I had a friend of mine question me on that, and I strongly believe that when we tell somebody something that they ought to do, we're really cutting off the sense that they know their own path better than we do. So I feel extremely honored as a spiritual counselor to be able to help people step into finding their own path. The other thing that was really important from the personal standpoint is that part of my ministerial vows are to see the light of the divine in all, including myself, and to support others in doing the same. And that vow was very, very true for me from the very beginning, but I didn't really have the foundation in how to do that. And in spiritual counseling, one of the things that we really work on is seeing somebody in their wholeness, seeing somebody in their glory and in their beauty. And that certainly makes it a smaller step to seeing the divinity within them. So from the personal standpoint, those are the benefits that I received from it. From the work standpoint, it shifted my work entirely. One of my part-time gigs now, besides being a dean, is that I am a chaplain at a hospital up here. which is amazing and tremendous work. They hired me with my ISC certificate. They've required me to do some CPE, which is the more traditional path, as you know, but they did hire me with the ISC certificate program. So that is one thing. And then the other thing is I have my own practice, of private practice of energy healing, spiritual counseling, and grief counseling. And this has allowed me to do that. I'm really excited about a program that I'm putting together for my private spiritual counseling program. And it came directly from the manual that I put together for ISC. I called that one the Invitations to Spiritual Counseling. And this program that I'm launching is called the Invitations to a Soulful Life. And it draws largely upon what those invitations were. So I am launching that as both a group and an individual spiritual counseling program in the winter.
So it sounds like the training that you had here at One Spirit, and specifically in the Interspiritual Counseling Program, has had a really profound impact, not only on your personal growth and spirituality, but on the work that you do in the world in many, many different ways and in many, many different areas. It's really inspirational to hear how many different ways you've been able to apply what you've learned here and all the different directions that you've been able to take it. And I'm very excited for you with the new program. It sounds like that's going to be something really, really wonderful. Now, can you tell me a little bit about the Interspiritual Counseling Program, and what is it that means for you in terms of being a dean, and what is it that you love most about the program?
I love watching people come into their own. You know, like we have people that come in thinking that they can't do interspiritual counseling, that they don't have the skills, they don't have the presence, they don't have, and to see it evolve over the 2 years is amazing. And to see people learn what they never knew that they didn't know in the first place is really a gift. It's an opportunity, just like seminary is, to continue to go deeper, to continue to, you know, get rid of stuff that's in the way and open up to our authenticity more and more. One of the things that's often said in the program is, you know, we can't take others where we haven't gone ourselves. So the ISC program is both about learning to take others places, but also having to go there ourselves to really do the deep work so that we are opening up the space to be with others around where they are.
What is the most profound lesson that you've learned, and what is the most profound lesson that you've taught in your role, not only as a student in interspiritual counseling, but also as a dean? I believe you're going into your 4th year now, so you've had quite a few students and quite a few experiences. I'd love to hear a little bit about those.
You know, I guess one of the things really is to tap into the soul of each and every person. My own spiritual counselor used to say that her work, and I say this about spiritual counseling in general, is to support people in coming from their soul more and less from their ego in life. And to be able to share that with students and help them to see what opens up. You know, one of my students is going through what a lot of people would say is, you know, a breakdown of a lot of the externals of life. And she's really seeing it as an adventure and an opening. And it's just such a blessing to see that shift within people. So, yeah.
And what is the greatest skill that you learned when you were going through the Interspiritual Counseling Program, and the one that you think has had the greatest impact on your work, not only as a counselor, but as a minister out in the world?
You know, it's the skill of true presence. It's the skill of just being able to be an open vessel for somebody else. You know, to not have to have the answer, to not have to do anything, but just be able to be there. You know, other things that have also been very helpful are skillful inquiry. I love, and again, that's just because of opening up to spirit. You know, a lot of times I'll be doing a session and then all of a sudden a question will come and it will be like, where'd that come from? You know? But it was the right question at the time. One of the other things that I love to do is, for the last several years, I have gotten to do the fish bowls in the 2nd year seminary. So that's always an interesting thing as well. The fishbowl presentation with spiritual counseling. So the students are exposed to spiritual counseling for the first time. Yeah, yeah. So,
Well, that sounds like that must be a lot of fun, and it sounds like you really enjoy the work that you do. Now, what would you say to somebody who is considering coming into the interspiritual counseling program if they
mhm.
feel like they may not have the experience going into the program that they need? If they, as you said, you've seen people come in who are uncertain, maybe not as confident as they might be. What would you say to someone like that?
It really is about willingness. It's about openness. It's about, do you want to be of service to others? And do you feel that your calling is in supporting the spiritual opening of another, the heart of another? And if that's what you feel like that your calling is, ISC is a great path to being able to do that. So.
Well, I know that everyone that I've spoken to that's come through the program would certainly agree with you on that point, and most of them would be extremely enthusiastic as well.
Yeah.
We're coming to the end of our time together, but before we do go, I would like to ask you, what do you think has been the most meaningful personal experience that you had on your journey, not only necessarily in interspiritual counseling, but from the time you came to One Spirit in 2003?
The most meaningful, huh? Easy question, huh, Richard? I'm going to have that go back to being an ISC question. When I was in ISC, and it was Renee and Barbara that were the leaders at that point in time, we did a capstone creative project that kind of talked about what our journey has been. And I did a photographic retrospective of my life set to the words, return to innocence.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I started it intellectually, and it became such a soulful project. It became a true recapturing of a lot of the harm and damage and hurt and everything that has happened over a lifetime. So it really did feel like a return to innocence. And that's one of many. I could go on, but I know we have time. So there, every week, every single weekend that we get together, I would probably answer that with a different update and a different update and a different update. One of the other things I love about being a dean is that I get to continue to grow and learn and heal myself as well.
Well, Annie, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us today. And thank you so much for everything that you do and for everything that you've done for One Spirit over the years, and for all of the students and the faculty and the staff that you have helped. And you've been such an important part of our life. And I just want to say thank you on behalf of everyone for everything that you've done. And I will look forward to seeing you around the halls of One Spirit. And I will very much look forward to hearing about your new project and how that comes to fruition.
Thank you. It is my honor to be here with you today, as it is to do all of the work with One Spirit.
Annie, thank you, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.